Hello, this is a part 3 video for VPC. So what we have learned in last class, we have learned to create a VPC and we configure two subnet, private and public, route table, private and public, and also we launch a couple of instance, public and private, and we access from the outside. First public, and through public we access private subnet private EC2 instance from outside, right? So private and also we discuss the public IP and private IP, right? So private EC2 does not have public IP. Also we created some route table, internet gateway, we configure internet gateway, also route table. So today what we are going to learn, we are going to learn today DNS resolution in VPC. So what is DNS and what is DNS resolution, name and setting in VPC we are going to learn, right? So you guys can see, like once we create a VPC, so VPC support is enabled by default, and DNS host is also enabled by default right here, right? But we need to click and make it enable. I guess we need to click and make it enable. Let's see. Here you go. Click here, VPC, select VPC, action here. So what I said, DNS is enabled by default. You guys can see by default is enabled, and if I go for DNS host name, it's not enabled by default, so we need to make it enable. How we can do it, I'm gonna first show you guys EC2 instance, and then I will make it enable. So let's go back to the EC2 instance and see, check it here. So you guys can see private DNS host name is enabled right here. So you guys see here, like public instance does not have the host name right here, right? Host name is on the IP version 4 has host name IP here. That said, public IP does not have it host name. If I go here, the same thing, I got the public IP addresses, but host name is not enabled. I'm going to back to the VPC and enable it. It will show here the host name. So enable save, right? I'm going back here, it's still not here, so I need to refresh it. Once I refresh it will get the host name. So you guys can see right here is a host name with the my region. So this is a host name, right? So how we connect before we connect with our SSH client with that, right? Connect like instance we were connecting with the public IP addresses, and now we can connect with the host name from outside, right? So now I'm going to connect it, cd. So my authentication files is sitting here, right? So I need to go there, copy from here, click here, enter, access deny permission. Let me check. So it says the mkp files not accessible, right? So I just fix the name. I rename it mistakenly. I'm gonna reconnect it again. So now is permission deny. I think something wrong with my mkp file, authentication file. I'm gonna fix it first. So what I fix it like I relaunch a couple of again is EC2 instances, and the public one now I'm going to connect with the public one with the DNS host name, right? So I copied it and I paste here, enter. Now it's connected with the public EC2 instance, and last time we connected by using the IP address, right? This one, by using this one, and now we have connected with the DNS host name. And so back to the slide. Right here, host name was we did enable, and here like it was enabled by default is enabled, right? So by default is enabled, but we have created a new VPC. So in the once you create new VPC is not by default is not enabled, is disabled. So this is talking about the by default, right? So by default false by default of for new created VPC. Okay, once we have new created, it is false, right? True by default, right? VPC won't do anything unless enable support, DNS support is true. If true, assign public host name to EC2 instance if it is public, right? So we did it now. If you use a custom DNS domain name in a private zone is root 53, you must set both these attributes to be true. I will discuss this one later. So in this slide, what we check DNS resolution setting. So I'm going to open the browser here, EC2 instance right here, back to instances. So here is a whatever. So sorry, VPC EC2 instance action. Sorry, we need to go back to the VPC, not here action. DNS resolution was enabled, and what was not enabled, it was the host name, so we did enable, right? So back to the slide, DNS resolution was enabled by default, and host name we did enable. Once we create the VPC ourselves, so we need to make it enable. By default it says is already true, means like enable by default once by default, right? So we have created, so we need to enable it. So we have done. Now let's talk about security group, and network ACL, right? So network ACL and security. First we're going to be talk security group. When we have seen the security group, when we are going to launch EC2 instance, we have seen there security group. So what are the security group? I'm going to launch another instance, so I will show you is going to be our security group. So right here is a configure your security group, right? During launching a EC2 instance. So what is a security group? Security group basically like a firewall. It's act like a firewall. So during once we launch it and we mention only allow what right here, we add the rules, right? Only allow HTTP because we host our application on the EC2 instance, Linux instance server, so we need to access HTTP, right? Port 80. So right here, sorry. So here is we are only saying allow. We are saying here we can allow only the HTTP, right? Using this firewall right here. So we open port. Some we can add multiple port during like create configure security groups. So we can allow like only HTTP allow, and if you wanna go for further add more like POP3 for emails, we can allow any port. POP3 port is 1102, so we can allow here POP3 port, right? So we can add and delete what we can allow, what we cannot allow it here. So security groups like a firewall, it's allow inbound and outbound traffic, right? So in this security group we can allow EC2 instance, database, and further computer, right? Further EC2 is EC2 instance. So let's go back to the security group. Back here, security group, we have created one security group. This one we have created during launching the EC2 instance, and this one is default security group. Once I created VPC, it's created itself, right? And this one I have created. So here what I allowed here, inbound rules, I allowed only a port 80 HTTP and SSH and any IP, right? And outbound it should says all the traffic allowed. So this security group allowing me to log in with my public EC2 instance. Why it's allowed? Because you guys can see I connected with SSH. If I where is my SSH? Right here, right? Is my SSH. So SSH allowed here, right? So that's the reason security groups allow me to log in a public instance. If I delete this one, my security rule, I won't able to log in from my home computer to AWS EC2 instance. So here anyone from the internet can have access. So this means anyone can be accessed by using SSH. Can be entered in AWS EC2 machines, though which are the publicly available. Here anyone can access, but I don't want to allow anyone, so I want to allow only my PC can be accessed. So click here. So you can see here custom. If you go for my IP, it will detect my computer IP, and it is going to be allow me to get login into AWS EC2 instance. It has taken my laptop IP, so it can allow only me. So if you go for custom, close this one. If you go for custom, you can allow any instance of IP address. You can allow security group too. So SG security group, any security group existing one, you can allow here. So I'm going to back here. HTTP, why I allow HTTP? Because right here, delete this one. Because anywhere like our web application is hosted on the AWS server, so anywhere in the world people can come and use our applications, right? So I allow HTTP port 80 anywhere from anywhere in the world. So based on the company rules, you can open multiple rules. You can open here SQL. If you are using SQL, you can open SQL login. Based on your requirement, you can add multiple rules here. Also you can open like all traffic. It is very dangerous, but you can open all traffic from here. Based on your requirement, you can add any security group here. Based on the system administrator, you need to open SSH from anywhere, because if something goes wrong in AWS machine, so you can log in from anywhere and fix the issue. So you can create 2500 security groups, and in inbound you can add security rules up to 60. You can keep adding here. You can keep add from the rules here, right? Any rules you can keep up to 60, and 60 outbound rules. Inbound 60 outbound rules. So security group and network access control list. The concept is simply same, almost same. So we have inbound and outbound. Inbound, which traffic we should send inside, and the outbound which traffic we should send outside. So one thing keep in your mind, security groups are stateful. What is stateful? So security groups are always stateful. What is stateful? So what is this? So here we have inbound and outbound, right? So we have inbound and outbound. If I delete this outbound rules, so we don't have any outbound rules here, we have only inbound rules, right? So we don't have outbound rules, but we have inbound rules. Whatever is allowed in inbound rules, automatically outbound rules allow the same thing. It doesn't matter if you don't have anything here, right? It does allow you to send back to any rules. It doesn't matter if you have or not. So whatever inbound is allowed automatically, if you don't have anything here, automatically it will allow the same thing. Even though there is nothing is allowed, it will depend on the inbound rules. You don't need to allow, you don't need to write any rules here. So this is called statefuls. Outbound statefuls. Whatever inbound is allowed, automatically outbound will allow these same rules. So come back to here. So whatever inbound is allowed here, automatically outbound will be allowed here, right? So this is called stateful. Even though there is no rules for outbound, it will depend on the inbound only. Back to security group. Here is some lagging. There is some limitation, so something we cannot do. What I'm gonna tell. So here we cannot block a particular IP address, right? So if we know some hacker try to be getting in my VPC, so I don't have I cannot type his specific IP address to block, right? So this is a limitation here. Here we can allow my IP addresses, or I can allow all IP addresses here, right? So there is no limitation or anywhere and all IP addresses, right? So we don't have anything we can block specifically any IP addresses. For particularly IP addresses blocking, we have network access control list. So by using network access control list, we can block particular IP addresses. So NACL stateless, you need to go and inbound and outbound. Whatever you specify in inbound, you need to specify the same thing in outbound. Otherwise, if you don't have anything in outbound, it's not gonna be allow any traffic in whatever inbound is specified, right? So you need to specify in both places, inbound and outbound. So that is called stateless. So here is NACL. So this is a network access control list. It's created automatically. So NACL is created automatically when we create a VPC. So I'm gonna give the name. So if I go here, inbound and outbound, so you guys can see here There is a number 100 all traffic allow, and what is the static? I'm gonna explain. And here the both rules are same here. You guys can see allow rules number 100 and deny asterisk, right? So here is the same. So this NACL is the subnet level. So I'm gonna bring the slide here. Next slide here is you guys can see like sorry NACL is in a subnet level. You guys can see here it's in a subnet level, right? So where is the security group? Security group, either we can assign with a EC2 instance or database, right? So you guys can see here, and but the NACL is in the subnet level,